and we're going to hear from Ms. Hardaway, but I had mentioned earlier that Senator Van Hollen was going to be joining us, so I'm going to turn to him for a moment.
Well, thank you, Senator Stabenow, and thank you and Senator Murray and everyone for pulling us together, and most of all, thank all of you for testifying and telling your important personal stories. And to Ms. Hardaway, thank you for coming from Maryland's Eastern Shore to tell your story. And I believe, along with my colleagues, that it's going to be that personal testimony that you all provide that will turn the tide ultimately, because we can talk about the statistics and all the cuts in dollar terms, but you can tell that story in human terms. So to my colleagues, Carol Fisher Hardaway is here from Salisbury, Maryland, to tell her story. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Please proceed.
Thank you. Madam Chairwoman, distinguished senators, thank you for convening this critical hearing and for the opportunity to share what the House Republican Health Repeal Bill would mean for me and my care. I look forward to testifying before you today. My name is Carol Hardaway. When I was 32 years old, I reached into my baby's crib, only to realize I couldn't feel him. My arm felt like it was asleep, like I must have slept on it wrong. I grabbed my son with the other hand and didn't give it much of a thought. Within minutes after arriving at the bar for work, I couldn't hold the glasses and shakers I needed to do my job. It was almost as if someone had flipped a switch in my whole right side and it shut off. Something was wrong, and I needed to go to the hospital. When they tested me for everything, stroke, meningitis, you name it, the tests were inconclusive, so I was sent home a week later with no diagnosis. This was January 1986. 4 years later, I had issues with my vision. It began rapidly deteriorating, taking me from near perfect vision to near legally blind. I went to an optometrist who didn't know what was causing this woman in her 30s to lose vision so suddenly. He passed me on to an ophthalmologist, and then on to a retina specialist, and then a neuro-ophthalmologist who did an MRI. The scan showed tiny, yet telltale black specks on my brain, lesions, clearly multiple sclerosis. Quite a diagnosis for a single mother whose only son was about to turn 5. As you know, multiple sclerosis, or MS, is a debilitating nervous system disorder. There is no cure. For me, it has meant reduced mobility, fatigue, excruciatingly painful spasms, and the occasional attack, which is an intense period of heightened symptoms. Those days, sometimes weeks, are the worst. To be clear, MS does not define me, but it does inform how and where I live. Allow me to explain. Back in 1995, I lost my health insurance when my then husband and I started our own business. From that point forward, I was uninsurable. Along with my debilitating chronic condition, I've survived 2 heart attacks, not exactly the type of risk you want on your books. Funny story, when I tried to qualify for the Texas high-risk pool, which was terrible insurance, by the way, I needed declination letters, yes, declining letters, from health insurance companies. Shouldn't be too hard, right? Yes, is this XYZ company? I'd like to enroll in your plan. Female, non-smoker, existing health conditions. Oh, 2 heart attacks, high blood pressure, depression, and multiple sclerosis. Every insurer I called laughed at me. That was what health care in America meant before the Affordable Care Act. That all changed on March 23, 2010, when President Obama signed ACA into law. I could not be more grateful to him and every senator, staffer, and advocate in this room who made that happen. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. My health continued to deteriorate, but I finally had hope. At that point, I was walking with a cane and couldn't always put my own pants on. I had to bring a stool to garden and pick up pecans because I wasn't sure I'd be able to get back up. I would pick up shifts waiting tables in town to pay the bills, but I couldn't always go in, and sometimes when I did go in, I'd fall, taking lunch plates and my dignity down with me. When the Supreme Court gave governors the option to reject Medicaid expansion, Rick Perry chose politics over the people of Texas. It became painfully clear to me that the only way I was going to be able to get care, and it was becoming urgent, was to leave my home and move to Maryland. On January 19, 2014, my son showed up to my home in Salina, Texas, with a moving truck. The high school football team came over to help load the truck. Go Bobcats. and thus began my 1,400-mile journey to receive quality, affordable health care. Within 2 weeks of moving to Maryland, I started receiving treatments for MIMS 24 years after my initial diagnosis. This is all thanks to the Medicaid expansion. My weekly shot manages my symptoms and significantly cuts back on my spasms. Because of this, I'm able to work as a very proud substitute teacher in Wacomico County Public Schools. When my health declines, usually every 6 months, my neurologist orders an anti-inflammatory steroid infusion. This dramatically improves my mobility, energy, speech, and overall function. As fate would have it, I just got my infusion last week, and look at me, I'm a whole new woman. The House Republican Health Repeal Bill cuts Medicaid, even after President Trump promised the American people he wouldn't. Under the Republican plan, I would be the biggest loser. Not only would I lose my Medicaid, the new age tax and ending protection for pre-existing conditions would make coverage or treatment completely unaffordable. I'll tell you the same thing I told my Congressman, Andy Harris, before he shut off his phone lines. The House Republican Health Repeal Plan would put me in a wheelchair. Those who say Medicaid is broken don't know how it has fixed me. Let me be clear. Just as I stand here before you, as a 63-year-old working woman with MS, Medicaid expansion is working. Don't let them tell you that I can't see a doctor or a specialist or a hospital or a pharmacy. Not only am I not having any problems with the coverage, Medicaid expansion is my lifeline. You have got to save it for me and the millions who depend on the coverage. Fight like hell, because we will be fighting like hell right there with you. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Bravo!
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Thank you to all of you. You reaffirm and energize